Hi there, it's a skate dog. So this is the second in a multi-part series on the Exway Atlas Pro, specifically the Ace gear drive, four-wheel drive variant. So what I wanted to do today is kind of walk you through a couple of the trails I went on with the machine and walk you through kind of the performance and some of the issues I ran into, which are not that many. So as you can see, some of the rocks on this trail are a little larger than you would expect, and that does pose a problem for the drivetrain itself. Now, what happens typically is the rocks will catch on uh, the transmission casing itself, and the board will hang up. Now, larger tires are going to fix that issue, so I don't really see it as too much of an issue. But what I kind of look at on the trail is anything about 3 inches high that the drivetrain is going to pass over. I try to avoid that. Now, on some of these mountain biking trails, that makes it a little bit more difficult. Now, as you can see the clearance. It's pretty good, and the bash bars around the motor cages, they're fantastic at just taking the punishment. You'll see in a later bit where it just absolutely hits a tree and decimates the tree and just kind of shrugs it off. Now, stability-wise, it's pretty darn good. The dual kingpin truck setup is actually a luxury. I haven't ridden a dual kingpin before, and it's a new experience. The concave on the deck is, lateral and forward and aft as well. So you can really dig your feet in, and it almost feels like you have a foot stop, but you don't. I kind of like it a lot. I was thinking about getting a foot stop, but honestly, that concavity is pretty nice, and I like the ability to bail out pretty quickly. I was thinking about turning the handles around to make a little bit of a foot stop, but I think I'm going to keep it as is. So as you can see, the thing's just an absolute torque monster. Handling, it's fantastic. Cornering, it's really good for what it is. Obviously, you're not going to be out turning on one wheel or anything like that, but um, once you get down the straightaway or you're like locked into the curve, you just hit the power and it's nice and smooth. So one thing I did have some issues with is the tuning on the controller as far as sensitivity, I guess, and a little bit of the braking as well. So the braking, there's a huge dead zone, especially when going downhill. About 25 to 30% of it, you don't get anything at all. And then at that 30, 40 mark, it starts kicking in. So you can see that being somewhat of a problem, especially on a downhill where you're transitioning really quickly and you need to start braking. If you don't, then you're going to probably eat it because you're going to be going too quickly. So I was a bit unsure about the rolling resistance with the gear drive. As I've heard, it's less than the belt drive, but definitely nothing close to a hub or direct. Now, I gotta say, it's not that bad. My two-wheel drive uh, belt system is a lot higher as far as the rolling resistance is concerned. This one, you can definitely feel it. So if you're accelerating and release off the controller, you'll definitely fall over if you're not anticipating that deceleration from the drag. However, it's not as bad as the belt. The belt kind of feels like you're hitting a wall in a way. Now, with that, I feel you can probably just lay off the controller and ride downhill up to maybe a 30-degree slope, and you'll be perfectly fine. That said, I wouldn't really try it. I like to have a little bit of brake in there just to make sure that I am getting some of that energy back into the battery with the regen braking. So what about noise? Noise is not that bad, actually. When I first started the belt drive on my setup, it was loud, it drove me crazy. It was way louder than the hub or the direct drive that I was used to. This is comparable to the belt. Arguably, I'd say it's probably less intrusive than the belt. It sounds like it's going crazy at low speeds, so very loud, just whining. all the time. However, once you get up to higher speeds, you don't get that increase in noise. It's kind of like when you start off at low speed, that's the volume you're going to have for the entire duration. So if you can manage that, it's no problem at all. It's not a head turner as far as like making so much noise people are looking. I could ride in the park and people weren't freaking out or calling the police or anything like that. I mean, fingers crossed. So stability wise, you can see right here going down, there's a lot of potholes and stuff, and it just takes it like a champ. Really doesn't try to make you fly off a bit or try to throw you at all. And that concavity, like I was talking about, really keeps you locked in for a lot of those dips. Now you can see I'm not really having any issues here on the grass, on the dirt, any of the transitions, and that's the most remarkable thing about it. I'm used to hitting grass like right here, and then it's just a dead stop, like it just sucks all the energy out. This burns through it like nothing I've ever seen. It's absolutely amazing. You just hit the dirt, great. You hit the grass, great. You hit gravel, great. Okay, well maybe gravel is going to be a little bit of a problem. You'll fishtail a little bit. And speaking of fishtailing, let's talk a little bit about the motors and how this all-wheel drive works. So there is a preferential motor between the ESCs, and it's front left for me. Um, and what happens is like I'll try to get some footage of it, but when you go up a steep hill and you start spinning wheels because of mud or something like that, the front left is the one that actually spins. It's like a virtual differential or something along those lines. So you have to have a minimum amount of power engaged in order to get all the wheels going. So at very low speeds, there's one wheel that's kind of dragging you along until the other ones kind of catch up. It's just something to kind of keep in mind because when you're in very muddy areas, you'll actually have a little bit less control than you anticipate. So as you can see, we're taking some of these routes pretty well. It's just taking them like a champ. And yeah, see there's that transition from that dirt path to the grass, nothing at all. And it's very easy to go fast and get up to scary speeds. Like look at this here. I would never imagine I would ever be able to ride on grass on a skateboard this quickly. And this is my second day of riding it. Maybe altogether 8 miles put on it, possibly 3 hours total. So this thing is absolutely amazing when you look at it. And you can see just torque for days. Well, that about wraps up this kind of quick glance at it. I'll try to do a little bit more in-depth reviews on this in the future, tear down and all that. But overall, fantastic machine. Cheers.